Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back. My name is Earl. I'm the managing partner at Tax Erasers. The fastest way to double your wealth is to cut your tax liability in half. That's my boy Jesse.
Yeah. And when it comes to owning a business as opposed to the other way around, that's kind of where I tap dance at. It's easy to file the necessary paperwork with the Secretary of State of wherever that you are in the United States. And worldly, that process is a little different, but that's another conversation. We can file those LLCs. We can, in the eyes of the government, become an official business operating entity. However, turning that into a wealth generating asset that continues to amass market value that has the ability to be converted into liquidity. That's kind of where I tap down. Ain't no kind of, what am I talking about? Words matter.
Kind of, and he's
Yeah,
saying it in such a humble manner where he scales multi-million-dollar companies, and for people who aren't there, he helps you get there with data-based strategies, and it's dealing with information on the not right now, but the right now.
I do
So
gotta add a component and just a small adjustment in there, just because words matter and they really are powerful. And as much as I've spoken about some of the disagreements that I've had with the contract that I'm on, the gems that I get that get picked up from it, are the the gems. Um, damn, I lost my fucking point. I was gonna, because you said,
we're talking about scaling multi-million-dollar businesses.
yeah, no, it is an important point, but it completely missed me as I was setting it up. I lost it as I was setting it up.
Well, it's all good. We can bang out the disclaimer and we can get into that. So, as you can tell, we have a lot of actionable information here. We're giving you straight meat and potatoes, no fugazi, never be lazy. So, guys, we always encourage you to work with licensed professionals, bonded in nature if need be. You want to work with people with a long track record of success. Always, always, always do your own research, because as you learn more, each one, reach one, teach one, because that's how we learn and grow as a community.
1000%. And what that was, it was the helping piece, because you mentioned how I help folks, and that's something that I really had to process for myself as I heard it articulated. It's like, I'm not here to help nobody when it comes to this craft that I've adapted and adopted. I've adapted myself to, and I've adopted as a piece of my purpose here in life. I'm not here to help nobody do nothing relative to that, but I will help those that are in the space to help themselves to do that. But they have to be, the analogy that I heard that resonated with me deeply is, when we talk about this journey of transformation that happens in my clients' businesses, I'm not here to push you up the hill. I'm not here to pull you up the hill. What I am here to do is to walk alongside you to the greatness that's due to all of us, that understand that business is a special opportunity to truly build freedom. And that's freedom of time, most importantly, but financial security, that freedom of having financial security. All of absolutely essential, but I can't I couldn't let that piece slide by without putting a little spin on it, as far as, because I'm not it took me a long time. I fought to have the confidence to say that. I fought for that to truly be how my spirit is set up now. You know, there was a time that I didn't have that. You know what I mean? Like I had to go through my own entrepreneurial evolution. So I'm not here to help nobody, because that old adage of, you know, you can lead the horse to the water and you can't make them drink is a real thing. And there isn't a more stubborn population of people on earth than American entrepreneurs. And that's the pool of folks that I deal with on a daily basis. So,
Yeah, 100%, man. I think as an entrepreneur, there are just things you have to get through to get to. So there's
mm,
no way to just hop to the next destination. You got to go through that brick wall. You got to bleed a little bit.
get
And
through to
the,
get to. I love that.
oh, thank you, brother. It's just you know it because I know it. Because we've been through things and we're going through things all at the same time. And you know, one of the things I really want to touch on again, I mean, we have a lot of stuff happening in private equity right now, which is, man, we're seeing China's real estate collapse. We're seeing Japan's stock market collapse. We're seeing private equity, put in particular the credit piece, is drying up, and they could
Why does
potentially,
China's housing market crash and matter to us?
well, there's a lot of companies and banks that put money into these Chinese projects because the numbers were out of control. So they were buying bonds, you know, they were buying corporate bonds from China. And these are large American companies, large American banks. So if you put your money in a bank and that's the institution that is the custodian of your money, and they end up making a bad reinvestment, because we have to remember the money never stays in the account, whether it's a checking or savings account. Immediately, the money that's in the bank, they're using that money elsewhere, because to the bank, your money is a liability until they can flip it into a credit product or an investment. Only then is it an asset to the bank. So with them holding these notes, they put millions and millions and millions of dollars in it. And initially, it was a great idea because the returns on it were better than anything you get elsewhere. A lot of folks don't know this about China, but China doesn't really have a stock market like ours. So they can't just put money in their version of the S&P 500 because it doesn't exist. They don't have a conglomerate of companies that consistently perform in a way and a board to handle those. So what the average citizen does is put their money in commercial real estate. And that sounds like a great idea, and it can be. It depends on what type of real estate it is. So these are apartment buildings. And initially, the citizens are putting their money there. So this is instead of having a 401k, 403b, they're putting their money into these funds, and then the apartments get erected, people go live in the apartments, there's a little bit of a return on capital, and you just keep investing. This was going great until I don't know, they might have studied the Americans a little too hard. They did essentially with what we did with mortgages and credit swaps, where we just kept stacking other synthetic assets on top of it and on top of that. So the analogy would be if Jesse and I had a bet on who could do the most push ups, and then someone comes over and they bet $50 on it. And then someone comes over and bets $50 on that person's $50 bet. And it's just building and building and building. That's what they did with their real estate market. They would take building A that was completed, take a loan against it to build building B. And then when they got 1/10 of building B built, they took a loan against building B as if it was already created to start building building C. So there are these gigantic buildings almost finished that are, you know, proverbial graveyards. So it's crashed completely.
Bruh, they
It's
had
coming
whole
down.
cities, bruh, like ghost
Yeah,
cities
yeah.
that
So
that,
that
that look magnificent. Like when you look at them, it looks absolutely magnificent. It's interesting because the whole housing conversation is a real one. So the Congress, the United States Congress seldom agrees on anything. You know, like
mhm.
if if the argument of the day is that the sky is blue, they're gonna find a way to turn that into a quagmire discussion that results in everybody questioning what color that the sky has ever been. Like that's what well, they actually passed legislation, House and Senate, on new housing rules. So private equity can't purchase private homes and a couple of other key, removing regulatory constraint because working primarily with the trades, I understand how much bullshit that come along with all of the permitting and the requirements and all of the things in order to build shit. Like it is in this country, it is absolutely insane. Now, I understand that a lot of this stuff came from a well-intentioned, it came from a good space, but it's just gotten absolutely ridiculous. So, this new legislation is supposed to remove some of those constraints as well. So when I think about what's happening here in Colorado Springs, because you had like Pastor Ben that built his housing, well, he built that housing development, which brought multi units into the community, which is affordable housing. And now they're building more units, like unit based housing units here in Colorado Springs. And it's going to take a creative mix of ideas to address the problem that we have all around this country as far as like people being homeless and the cost of living and all of the things. But to know that over in China they got whole fucking ghost cities that have just been sitting dormant. Like what is it? It's like 1.3 billion people in China or something like that. So
And we're
all of
talking
that
about 8-lane highways. I mean, the most state of the art looking things you could ever see. It looks like something from a Dubai catalog, and nobody lives there.
is absolutely nuts. But it's like the extreme of problem solving because in a country of 1.3 billion people, I'm pretty sure that there are people that could live in those ghost cities. But there are other political and non-human based priorities that prevent that type of stuff from those types of connections from happening, which results in these ghost cities that results in impact to the global economy. Because when the United States committed itself to the global economy, we took all that comes along with it, all of the challenges that comes along with that. And one of those things being when the housing market in China is not doing well, that has an effect on the global economy. And we feel that in different ways. So as we watch our housing issue get worked out, to understand how, it's great for our situation to be getting better, well, to hopefully get better with this new law that got passed, which a piece of that was the president didn't even sign it. He said if because it
They
passed
don't pass the SAVE Act, then this affordable housing bill. will not get passed because true Americans want the SAVE Act.
It had so much like resounding support within the House and the Senate that it was veto proof, and there's nothing that the president could do to stop it. He could delay it, which is what he did. So he didn't sign it in order to delay it. So it's interesting because I've really been on a leadership development like that's like my shtick. You know what I mean? As I've wrapped up this project, that first project, like leadership development was at the core of it, and that's ultimately what's at the core of all of the business endeavors that I'm coaching and advising on. So this guy that has said he doesn't care if the American people are not in a if they don't feel financial security. Like none of that
Right.
matters. As long as this adversarial opponent is not able to amass nuclear weapons, like that's the top priority, which we'll watch how history plays out relative to that topic on if Iran ultimately ends up with nuclear weapons, which I don't see how they don't after everything that has happened. But that's another topic. But on the topic of like leadership itself, the war is the top. So we don't care about your financial piece. And then I'm not gonna sign this law to with that has the intention and the bipartisan support to reduce the cost of housing and to really address a major issue that has impacted millions of Americans. Not going to sign it. For it to, in the dark of night, become law on a technicality, because since it was it was veto proof support on it, it made it into law without the president ever signing it. Fucking crazy, bruh.
I know, man. I didn't see that one coming. We're both optimists and we're both realists. I will say the shift in people is becoming more and more apparent by the day, with them just dealing with the reality of who they voted for or who they didn't vote for, you know? So I'm just pushing forward more and more. Almost every conversation I've had in the past 2 weeks, I've ended it with let's normalize solving problems without the government. And I'm just doing my little piece and, hoping other people echo that wave. And, kind of speaking of wave, one of the things that will be making wave, we have a lot of kind of ubiquitous type of business activity going on. FTC and antitrust stuff is it's wild, bro. When we got this new president, him and his administration pretty much removed all regulation roadblocks. So with PE, it completely changed how they could buy things and what they could buy because they're almost completely unregulated. So they're able to create monopolies. One of the interesting things with some of the monopolies that they've made is that they didn't make them in a profitable manner. So imagine having a whole segment and still not being as profitable as you need to be for your goals. So now private equity firms are selling large roll-ups to each other. It's just so they can keep the inflated value. So that's pretty wacky to watch going on. We also we've talked
Hold on.
about
So
this.
so they have portfolios of businesses that they've rolled up together that they're basically auctioning off.
Mm-hmm. So they're selling their roll up, or they're selling a part of their portfolio, or maybe they're selling a fund, and they're doing it because this portion of the fund is not profitable enough. for the amount of space that it takes up. So, like one of the groups that bought Walgreens, they're experiencing this where we're probably going to see that whole group of businesses get sold to another private equity institution. And it's because they bought it when money was cheap. So they, 2021, 2022, very low rate environment, and they overpaid for the asset. So they haven't materialized the profits that they should have got, even though the money was virtually cheap. Making a bad investment is a bad investment. Spending money and getting poor capital expenditures is never going to help you be in a positive situation.
We also got to get to the core of how we define a good versus a bad investment. So the reason that I make that distinction is because for myself in particular, when I get into this round of buying businesses, like you and I've been talking about it, but when I really start buying businesses and doing the things that it needs to, so the equivalent that I make to that is, how many times have you driven past a old auto repair shop that got like 6, 7, 12, 20 old ass cars sitting in the back? Well, a lot of the times the intention behind that is brilliant in the sense of that those vehicles now become inventory. And we have a couple of ways that we can leverage that inventory. We can salvage parts from it for active repairs. We can break down the vehicles and sell the parts to folks that specialize in that, and that be a revenue stream. The vehicles can be repaired to, then be sold at a premium. Like there's options that come along with having a plethora of old broken down vehicles sitting in the backyard. What ends up happening is these auto repair shops don't have the business acumen to stay on top of all of the demands of their business, and those what would otherwise be assets just ends up sitting in the backyard as liabilities to the company. Well, how that ties to the larger point that I'm making is, when you buy an asset that you don't understand how it works, and you just hoping that it just gets additional value just off of osmosis or things that you don't understand, that's a completely different thing and space to be in than to actually understand what it takes to engineer value into a business. So for those in our audience, our classmates that are picking up on the lines in between what's being said, to be able to leverage that to say, there has never been a better time to be purchasing a business than right now, a small business. So when we're talking about what's happening in the larger scope of things, of these bigger brands being rolled up into packages that end up being sold off and this, that, and the third, my mind comes back to the grassroots of how many auto repair shops got 30 vehicles sitting in the back, and the owner don't know what the fuck they doing in their business at all. Now, understanding that the demand for fixing vehicles ain't going nowhere no time soon, there's huge opportunity with that if you know what the hell you're doing. But if you don't, and you just looking to just purchase what could potentially be an asset for you in the future. You know,
You're hitting on a point, bro, that I bring up all the time. When I'm getting people business funding, when I'm getting people whatever, I get 5 calls a week where someone's like, "Hey, I'm looking for asset-based lending." Okay, I understand. Fill out this form, this and that. No, 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 you don't understand. The asset is already there. I want a loan against it. I understand that. You got to fill out this application. Why? There's value in this asset already. And I was like, the risk is never in the investment. The risk is in you. And they just
give me some more.
it hits them
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
chest.
Speak to that. What does that, break that down to the layman?
That is a famous Warren Buffett quote. We know Warren Buffett, he started Berkshire Hathaway, one of the wealthiest men to ever live. That was one thing he would say on the regular, is not in the investment. The risk is in the investor. Because when you buy it, how you buy it, how you plan to exit it, and if it's something that you have some sort of control over, how do you guard in that? All of those factors have a whole bunch of U's pointing to it. You. So two people can invest in the exact same asset class and they can have wildly different experiences. Like we talked about here, I believe on our second episode, there's a young man who took his life because the GameStop short was going on, and he took out a massive, massive amount of margin. Margin is when you take out credit to buy stocks or cryptos, something in that arena. The stock didn't do what he thought it was going to do. So he ended up $7 million in debt just like that. And he took his life because he figured there was no way he could ever get out of that debt. And it's so unfortunate because if he had access to folks like us, we would tell him, like, one, please don't do that. Two, bankruptcy. Three, once all these options settle, you might not even owe that much. You might not owe 7 million. You might owe 3.5, which is still a lot of money to be in debt. But that's where you would use bankruptcy as a tool to be able to help you out. So that gentleman, unfortunately, God bless his soul, took his life in that situation. We had another 16-year-old at the exact same time that did not buy on margin. They just bought an option on it, and they were able to turn $50,000 into $1.5 million. Same asset, probably purchased around the same time, just bought with a different mindset. Anytime we're looking to get assets, y'all, the profit has to already be baked in before you get involved, especially when we're talking about buying businesses. Now, I know with the skills that Jesse has, he could find a unique opportunity where he's like, this business is not profitable right now, but I know they're not profitable because X and Y. And those are two things that I can change in a simple manner and it would make this business profitable. But since it isn't, that business is on sale for Jesse. That means instead of paying 1.3 million or 2 million, he might pay $300,000 to get this business, change the two things, and now he is controlling or owning, depending on how he purchases it, a $2 million business. And he's already got the plan to exit before he enters, because that's what the pros do. You got to know how to get out before you get in.
I do have to challenge that piece though, man. Like I know that the game when it comes to mergers and acquisitions is to get in when it's hot and to hop back out. For me, when I think about the business model for Bullseye Consulting and the businesses that we will acquire over time, I have to believe in the business to begin with. Like when I say believe in the business, I'm not talking about the story behind the owner and all that. Like all of that matters for different reasons, but I have to believe in the business itself. Like the business has to bring value to the ecosystem. When I believe that the business is actually bringing value to the ecosystem, all that other stuff gets worked out in the wash of actually making the business more valuable. So it's a different calculation when I'm looking at these businesses as the assets that they can be versus what their current state is, because none of that stuff can be defined right now. But the second that we say, all right, we actually partner with a local nonprofit and we employ people that are in the transitionary stage of, being in a prison setting or a jail setting to now transitioning into being productive members of society. We intentionally hire those folks, and we have a training program that has delivered this result. Like there's a lot of my point is it's a lot of opportunities to take a business that has just been existing and to turn it into a whole other thing. But if we just looking at it as a flip and move on type of thing, that's not my business model, to purchase and flip and move on. When I know I just said a whole lot, but kind of wrapping all of that up into as pretty of a bow as I can. When I believe in the business, I'm not looking to run it up and sell it, because I'm playing the longer game than that. And I know what it takes to make the businesses more valuable. So why would I want to have all of these valuable assets that I pipe them up and then like I'm gonna keep on piping them up, because I'm gonna keep learning more about the different industries that are in that are a part of the portfolio that I manage, and I'll just continue to reinvest back into being him in all of those respective industries, because I'm not looking to pump and dump.
And I'm really glad that you said that, because everyone has a different buy box. So there's not as much competition as folks think, because the businesses that I want to own might not be the businesses that Jesse wants to own.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of time that I want to hold the asset might be wildly different than Jesse. If I'm someone who's like, look, I need $100 million and I got 6 years to get it, because whatever, I set this goal for myself and it's really important for me to have that net worth, then I'm probably playing the roll-up game, where I'm buying 4 businesses that are the exact same and I'm scaling them for 3 to 5 years. So then I can sell that roll-up to private equity. And I might be doing it with 2 different groups of roll-ups at the same time, because if you're doing it with businesses in, like, let's say a blue collar industry, and I buy each business for $1 to $3 million, and we scale those up, when I do the roll up, my multiplier might be a 12x, so it puts me and altogether, these businesses might be, $10 million altogether, but you get a 12x on that, sell that thing for $120 million, assuming I'm the best in class, I have great SOPs, also assuming that I do not have a high client concentration where all of my sales are coming from 1 or 2 connections, where it's spread out, where, I mean, there's so many different factors. We could go on and on and on about it, but that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to have a legacy portfolio where you buy companies that are a great fit to you, that you admire, and you love the industry and you build that thing up and you have a really high confidence that that type of business is going to be around for the next 10 or 20 years. So that's blue collar companies, that's laundromats, that's stuff like pest control, construction. We're gonna need these things regardless of what AI can do in the future. Now, if you were in the position, 30 years ago where you could have bought a VCR company and you start see Blu-rays coming out, it's like, whoo, we gotta offload this or we gotta shift our business model because this thing's about to go extinct. So I see that just to say we don't if you're buying a business, you have to be mindful of the time frame of the usefulness of the products and services that it currently has. So there's a whole bunch of bookkeeping businesses and CPA businesses that have been sold over the last 3 years. It's been like an astronomical amount of them sold. Why? Because basic tax prep and whatnot is something that there are some artificial intelligence programs can do. Now, can it really do proactive tax planning? Can it do what I do? No. I mean, are there some programs out there that try to do it? Yes. Does the IRS also have AI to be able to look at what you're doing? Let's say you do use an AI service for something critical, like a legal service, tax service, and stuff goes left, who do you sue? So if AI does you dirty, who do you sue? Because it's not a person that you set up the contract with. Who's liable? So there's so many questions that we're going to see the law define more. I was really, really proud to see, it wasn't Ashanti. There was a black R&B artist recently that found it was SZA. She found out that a guy put her whole music catalog into the program and was making songs based on that. And she hit him with the cease and desist, and which he did because she could have sued him for everything because he's making profit off of her genius. So we're going to see more definition when it comes to intellectual property. I mean, it's a whole wacky world out there. And do you have something queued up that you wanted to play?
Yeah, this fucking and you learn something new. So as we've been on this journey of building our own asset in the form of this media conglomerate that we're piecing together, component by component. When Ian, Rashad, and Troy are all on the camera together, they got Mike in the background making sure that everything is everything. Ian and Rashad are on the camera for blackout. You got Troy in the background making sure that everything is everything. When you and I are on the camera, and that's just a testament to the journey, right? When you and I are on the camera, the background support is on the camera. So when you talk about my heart dropping when I start hearing a commercial being played in the middle of episode, and I don't know what fucking screen that is coming from. Like I got mad screens. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm looking at 5 monitors right now. And on my 5 monitors, I got different web browsers, and all of the browsers got different shit going on. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, yo, I don't know what fucking browser, because I'm running 3 different browsers with multiple tabs in each browser. Oh man.
On some Dexter's Lab type stuff, bro. That is look, can't wait to keep scaling this. So we have a person to make sure everything is everything. And we're very, very close there. Like, y'all stay tuned because live episodes are coming soon, coming hot. We have an amazing guest list. And the amount of value you guys are going to get is just about to go up tenfold. Because we're going to ask these people real deal, Holyfield type of questions, no softball questions. They will not be getting the Fox News treatment when they're interviewing Trump. Okay, we're we're gonna make sure we can press them so you can see their real genius that comes out. Because when someone is a professional, someone just like we really do this every single day. Right before I hopped on the podcast, I had multiple. I had a trust meeting. I had a tax planning meeting. I had business funding meeting, and then I had strategy sessions with some of my brokers. And then I hopped on this. Same thing with you. You're working with your clients while you're working with clients, while you're working with other clients, while we're doing the pod. And since we really do this, if you ever grill one of us, oh, can you speak more on that? Oh, elaborate on that. How does that interact with that? It's just boom, 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 boom. And we're going to do the same thing to these guests so we can get a side of them that you guys haven't got to see yet. That's where the goal is. And, speaking to that, brother, I got hit upside the head with some algorithmic pricing again. So I'm seeing it allegedly with Amazon. So I recommended, I stay on my health and fitness stuff. And I had a friend ask me, yo, what type of supplements you taking? Like, dog, I absolutely love these electrolytes. So I told him the brand, which I'm not going to say here because they didn't give me any money to talk about them. But I told him the brand, and he sent a screenshot back, and he said, oh, okay, cool. They're $17. I sent him a screenshot from my Amazon. They were $11. So I was like, you know what? You need to go out of the pay. You need to look at other stuff and then just keep watching it and wait for the price to go down. 3 days later, he was able to buy it for $11.
The game is going to be the game. Like it's, and for me, as I look at the game continuing to be the game, I think about how disruptive that it was initially to Walmart becoming the major conglomerate that it is, and what that did to small businesses all around the country, where it basically just ran them out of business because a lot of the things that you could go to the small business for, you could one-stop shop. Walmart is all covered. And Walmart created a certain like a new market that Amazon came in and made Walmart feel a little uncomfortable, and Walmart had to make some significant adjustments in order to compete. Nah, it's how we're looking at the current state of affairs and evolving. But I wanted to get your read on this one piece, because we haven't spoken about Iran in a while, like substantively. There was a time period where every week, we were talking about the updates from it. And I know for myself, it just got to a space where it's like, bruh, it's too much. Like, we can keep on providing the updates on it, but it's just such a fluid situation. But this kind of feels like a turning point, so I wanted to get your read on it. So the president put out a Truth Social post saying the Hormuz Strait is open and will remain open, with or without Iran. We are reinstating the Iranian blockade, so named because it is only stopping Iran ships or customers from entering or leaving. All other countries will have fair and open use of the strait. The USA will be, from this point forward, known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait, but as such, and as a matter of fairness, will be reimbursed at a rate of 20% on all cargo shipped for any and all costs necessary to do the job of providing safety and security to this very volatile section of the world. The process and formation will begin immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT.
My initial thoughts are some people just don't know how to take a win. They don't. They just don't.
Where was the win?
The reopening of the strait. So our
the problem with these negotiations from the beginning is that they were never really founded in like an intention of legitimate outcomes. It was more so like public relations. So Iran has to make sure that the story sounds good to the Iranian people, and in the US had to make the story sound good to the US public. Both narratives not necessarily aligned with the reality at stake. So the way that the Iranians have defined the strait being opened or closed versus how the United States has defined how the strait is opened or closed have been two different conversations. And there's been nothing to reconcile that outside of on ships and subsequent responses from the United States. It's like there was never a clear, this is how we define the strait being open. This is how we define the strait being closed. Agreement between Iran and the United States. So since that has never been like implicitly, specifically agreed to, and my mind goes to this because I operate in the gray space. In business, everything is black and white, and that black and white equates to numbers kind of aligning with agreements that are mutually beneficial between different parties and different factions.
I think when we look at this situation, what I'm calling a win is a situation where he put himself in a situation that our country never should have been in the first place.
That's a fact.
We had every term that he's asking for. We already had that, and with a better criteria on each ask. So we never should have ended up in this situation. But being able to pull resources back, not allow our market to crash, not allowing our farming ecosystem to crash, like I call that a win. Is it a small win? Yeah, it's like when you're in third grade and you first start learning your W's. It's a small win. And to your point, there is no specificity. And that's what makes all of this just seem like it's, grandstanding. It's just ego strokes and tweets. The infrastructure
does that
needed.
feel like a small win when those things were already the status quo prior to any of this?
We can agree to disagree on it, but I would call that a small win. So I was looking at fertilizer, bro, and looking at the effect farming was about to have on everything, along with the fuel price. If gasoline had hit $7 per gallon in Colorado, and it hits $14 per gallon in California and in New York, we're looking at a very, very different world.
Do you think that it's possible for us to hit those numbers?
If the strait stayed completely closed and Iran stopped shipping out fertilizer, 100%. It was already going that way where, I paid $5 per gallon at one point in time. So thinking about it going up another $2.
They've been playing these manipulative games with the the stock of oil, the world stock of oil. They've been playing these games of like
Hmm.
releasing strategic reserves from, various countries to inflate and contort stats to that's why I always say men lie, women lie, numbers don't. But numbers can deceive depending on how they used. And this is a situation where the numbers are being deceived in a different kind of way because the world has historically demonstrated a certain demand for oil. And the production of oil has not met the demand for oil in quite a while. So, just like kind of logically thinking through all of that, there is no way that there are not effects that we haven't felt yet relative to it potentially getting to I I don't know if it's gonna be $7 or $5 or what's gonna look like, but when we have not been producing when the world has not been producing the amount of oil required for the demand that we know is there because it's been there historically, we can't just like 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 out of thin air produce oil. It hasn't been produced as we're talking about the strategic reserves drying up. None of that is legit. The prices that we're looking at right now at the pump, they're not is not legit. It's not taking into account the whole story. But the whole story doesn't matter because a lot of people aren't paying attention anyway. Like we just paying attention to when you go to the gas pump, it's not $7 right now.
No, you hitting the nail right on the head. And as we've talked about a few times on this show, oil is traded in futures for a reason because there's so much volatility to it. And depending on the speed in which oil can be drilled, packaged, delivered, and or stored, and the price of the storage, all of that affects the cost of oil at the end of the day. So we've had plenty of times where, these large distributors of oil have decided, you know what? We are going to push the price way down so we can get this other competitor out and we can make the oil cartel even tighter. So they'll waste 30, 40, $50 million because that's nothing to them. It's only an investment when they get to extract the profit,
But they do
you
see
know.
the profit. So by suppressing the opportunity for competition,
And then for them also $50 million is like less than $1 to you and I
right?
for these large companies. But
Investment, right?
I just think back to 2021, bro, where these guys start drilling at a 10x rate of what they're normally doing, and that is because oil futures were like negative $58 a barrel, so that they can keep the price up. But they allowed, a major player to get run out of the game, and then they gain more market share. So in that way, yeah, they definitely weren't just wasting money, but in that exact time, it kind of shows you what they can use their wealth for and what they could really do if they wanted to. It kind of makes me think about when we got the Federal Reserve Bank, which everyone has their opinions on it because it is a private entity that controls our monetary system, which makes it very different than almost any other country. However, they did it because we were headed to a Great Depression, and JP Morgan calls everyone and says, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're all going to buy this, sell this. We're going to do it in a coordinated effort with all of us in this room doing this at the same time. It should stop the market from free falling. And it did. And he saved a whole bunch of people's retirement. He prevented a depression. And People thanked him, and then people immediately said, wait, one man is this powerful that he can, so if he can stop a depression, what else can he do? So that's when they created the Federal Reserve Bank. They said, nah, we do need regulation between these different bodies. We do need a place and time for people to collaborate if something like this happens, but it just can't be one dude. It needs to at least be a board.
That's what's so beautiful about these conversations, bro, because um it's informative in different kinds of in a different kind of way. So the current president has been kind of making it a point of he doesn't want to be the next Herbert Hoover that took the world into a global depression. Um, you and I have spoken about it on this here program of how when I said it weeks ago, I meant it and I still mean it. I don't know how we avoid a global depression. Like I don't we can call it something else the same way that we've not been defining recessions here in the United States. Like we can call it something else, but I don't see how we avoid that. I'm saying that to ask the question to you, Earl, because you and I kind of agreed on that. Has that shifted in your mind in spirit as far as like how we can avoid?
I'm along with you. I don't know if we can avoid it at this point in time.
So let me ask you
So it's
this.
inevitable.
No, I'm with you. Like I agree. So when we actually are, see, because human psychology is a very interesting like subject and phenomenon. Like we understand how the human mind works. It's been studied, front to back. However, people are going to do what people are going to do. One thing that we do know is that the fear of missing out is a huge component in human psychology. We also know what's in it for me, that whiffing factor are huge components in human psychology. For you and I to see what's ahead of us, what are the things that people will regret that they have not taken action on when that time does inevitably come, that we are in a global depression?
The first thing is that there's this book that's called it's the name kind of cracks me up. Harvey McKay, he's a billionaire. He wrote like Swim with Sharks, and then he also wrote a book called Never Buy Clothes from the Naked Salesman. And it's gonna be an exposure thing where people who were in bad deals, they weren't operating their company the right way. They didn't buy their real estate at the right price or in the right manner. They're going to be exposed and they're going to be hurting. People that weren't thinking ahead and they're not reaching out to work with us at Tax Erasers so we can help them with the Roth conversion, because not only are they going to have tax-free income, but they get to actualize their gains every single year. You don't get to do that if you're in a 401k. You're always in this amoebious, moving cloud kind of thing where you're just like, oh, we got some gains, we got some losses. The money's completely illiquid. Whereas if you're thinking ahead, you have liquidity locked in. And when everything's going backwards, that is the best time to buy. Assets are about to go on sale. So people are going to kick themselves in the butt that they had way too much of certain cryptos, that they had way too much money in these accounts, and that they weren't preparing themselves like you and I to be able to purchase assets that make sense, to be able to purchase assets in other countries.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. So reality is, you know what? Let me ask you this before we wrap up this episode. How would you describe when you think about the commitment that you've made and are continuing to fight to make reality on a 1 to 5 scale? Um, how would you rate the importance of like staying down to come up?
I'll rate it a 5 out of 5. I
Why?
can't, I can't, and with 5 being most important, I can't tell you how many people I know that are in a slump and they make 250 a year, $400,000 a year, but they're doing the keeping up with the Joneses thing. So as soon as life happens, they're broke. And I think one of the craziest statistics that has came out from the Chicago Federal Reserve Bank was that people making $500,000 or less all have about the same savings, and that savings is less than $3,000. Staying down so you could be up forever means that you can move without your ego, without external validation. It's okay to reward yourself. It's okay to have these keystone events where you're like, look, when I do this and this and this, I can finally buy myself this vehicle. But the reason I can buy this vehicle is because I can buy it 5 times. It is beyond in your budget. However, one of the things I would challenge people, I'm like, look, if you've done all this work to make assets, why are you so excited to buy a liability? Why not find a way to have an asset, pay for that liability, take that money and buy a cash flowing asset and allow that asset to buy your playthings? So, bro, I don't think there's anything that's more important because you can make all the money in the world, but if you're spending more, and I know you've seen it, I know you've looked at a P&L before, and you see a company where they're just blowing their money, and you're like, my goodness.
Yeah, and I want to add some context to that because yes, the money is being blown, but it's not being blown in the sense of how someone may perceive that be. When I think about blowing money, I think about just my my mind can be small at certain points in time, right? So blowing money can be fun, right? When you don't have any intention. Like it's just we in the club, the BMF, they were blowing money fast. They were just like throwing it in the air. It was just it was going, it was gone, and that was it. Blowing money fast looks different in a small business where for Big Meech and all them, they were like feeling good while their money was being blown frivolously at high rates. In small business, it don't quite feel that way, or it don't, and it don't look that way. The money gets blown fast, but it's incrementally. Meaning, if we blew $25,000 in profit in 1 year, as you are growing your empire, would you say that, Earl? Would you say that a year is a long time to? Um, how would you describe the timeline of blowing $25,000 in the course of a year?
When it comes to business, a year is a short period of time, and $25,000 might not be a large sum. If it's all of your profit, it is a large sum. It's all of your profit. So my question would be, where did it go? Are you doing a thing kind of like Amazon where they didn't show profitability for like 25 years because everything went right back into the business? That's not blowing money. That's investing money. Now,
And it's
someone
hard.
who's
It's hard to land on the right numbers to have the right gut punching effect that I intend to have. But what I'll say is my intent in asking you that question, Earl, is, and you answered it brilliantly. Like it's like what's coming back from it. A lot of the times there's no thought or awareness in what's just being blown frivolously, and it ends up being an after effect when someone from a company that I have represented walks into your door and gives you that rude awakening that you just allowed $250,000 to evaporate out of the grasp of your fingers. Your own fingertips. You could have controlled that 250,000 and diverted it elsewhere, but instead, because you didn't have the controls, the systems and processes in place, that 250,000 was just blown. And I'm really like driving home that point in the context of when Big Meech and them went and blew $250,000 in the night. You best believe everybody that was a part of that experience are probably still talking about it to this day, or they still recollect. Like that was an experience that we blew $250,000 on, like whatever. In small business, that 250,000, it don't feel that way to blow it because it's just happening slowly. It's just gradually accumulating. It's just happening day in and day out. And again, when you find somebody that somebody walks into your front door from an office that I've consulted for, and they tell you, let me show you, let me not tell you, let me show you the $250,000 that you just blew last year, not even recognizing because you didn't have the right framework in place. Like that's the shit that we need to be thinking about right now. Are we blowing money fast and not enjoying the glitz and glamour of it? Because we don't even know what's happening. We don't even know what's happening. The 250,000 is just being lost because we don't have any financial discipline to understanding our financial reports and what they represent and what we can do with that information.
Bro, you hit it. You hit the nail right on the head. That's powerful.
So the beauty of what we do every week here on this here program is that we're able to have conversations about shit that is like, it's not work to me. I know it's not work to you, but it is generation shifting for the people that you and I both collectively care about. And that's what this is about. Every single week is another contribution to the cachet. And we don't take the opportunity for granted at any point in time. And we also acknowledge, respect, and appreciate that you could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with us. And we appreciate that. It's been my man Earl.
My guy Jesse.
And it's the Asset Class. Thank you for listening.